This is NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Now, with a look at local, regional, and international NASCAR racing, here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. It is Wednesday, November 6th, and I cannot believe we are saying that it is November already. I'm Hannah Newhouse here in our Concord, North Carolina location, joined always by Kyle Rickey up in Connecticut. And Kyle, it's hard to believe that we're just a few weeks away from Thanksgiving, a few weeks away from the NASCAR season being over as we get ready to approach 2020. But with that being said, it was a pretty quiet weekend in short track racing across the country.
I can believe it up here in Connecticut because it was 41 degrees this past weekend, and they are calling for snow on Thursday here in Connecticut. So I am glad I will be heading toward the ISM Raceway in Phoenix before that storm approaches. But you're right. A quiet weekend here in New England, a quiet weekend throughout most of the country as far as short track racing is concerned. I know the Cars Tour wrapped up their season at the South Boston Speedway. And then there was that big 400 lapper at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, the All-American 400 that has, I guess it has kind of been established for a long time, but it's been one of those marquee races that short trackers from all over the country really want to get to and either watch or participate in.
I always say that when the season starts to wind down, that becomes some of my favorite time in short track racing because that allows for some of these bigger races to really take the stage, like you said, including the All-American 400, which showed a little bit of controversy actually over the weekend. It was Mason Mingus collecting the win, but that wasn't even really the talk of what the race was. It came down to some debate over a move that was made actually by Casey Roderick, who was racing the leaders a lap down and really had a telltale in who won the race and who finished. Chandler Smith, who was a fellow Rowdy Manufacturing chassis teammate, was not happy with Roderick, saying that he ultimately had a hand in how that race played out, that Chandler Smith would have had that race wrapped up. But Mingus won. Chandler Smith came home in second over Boris Yurkovich. And another name, Stephen Nasse, was up front most of that race, ended up wrecking midway through, had some words with some of his, as he would say, fans on the backstretch as his car was being towed off. But it was interesting to see how that race played out. Stephen Nasse, though, one of those drivers that has been on fire this season and probably going to carry that late into the season as well.
Oh, absolutely. It was a great race at Nashville. First off, congratulations to Mason Mingus, a driver that we haven't seen in quite some time as far as the national level is concerned. He ran a handful of truck races a number of years ago and was kind of the underdog going into the race over the weekend in Nashville. You mentioned Casey Roderick, a fuel issue midway through the event, ended up putting his car and team down, I guess, multiple laps. He didn't agree with it. He thought he was either on the lead lap or should have been on the lead lap and wanted to prove that he had a car capable of being on the lead lap and racing with the leaders. So what did he do? He raced the leaders about as hard as anybody raced the leaders all day. And what would have been, I think, a pretty tight finish, unfortunately, was not because of the way Casey raced those leaders there in the last 5 or 6 laps or so. It's something that we have talked about quite a bit in the national side of things and lap cars and where they need to be on the racetrack when the leaders approach them. And we saw the same thing play out in Nashville over the weekend.
And it'll be interesting to see how that tension carries through the rest of the season, especially with a race like the Snowball Derby coming up, where Roderick is also always a name that shows up there, including Chandler Smith. So some of that controversy could carry on as the late model season continues. But Chandler Smith, a young prospect we've seen race in the ARCA series, in super late model racing, as well as the Gander Outdoor Truck series. He's making his way up slowly but surely, having teamed up with Kyle Busch Motorsports for some of those starts. And that's where every driver dreams of being, is eventually moving up those ranks. And Chandler Smith is well on his way to doing that. But another driver that we've had on this show multiple times seems to be our super shoe fill-in as well, Andy Seuss, with some interesting news over the weekend about him moving up in the ranks as well.
Yeah, Andy Seuss, it's always great to see the drivers that we cover here on the show week in and week out in NASCAR's touring divisions or in the weekly series, the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series at tracks across the country and up in Canada, move up into that national spotlight. And we have not seen a lot of that from the modified drivers in the last 10 or 15 years, Ryan Preece being the latest. And now Andy Seuss is that next modified driver / co-host fill-in here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Former NASCAR Southern Whelen Modified Tour champion, won that title 2 consecutive years. before the series merged with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour a couple of years ago. He's going NASCAR Xfinity Series racing with Our Motorsports. Chris Auer, a longtime car owner in the Modifieds. In fact, won a championship with the late Mike Stefanik a number of years ago. Transferred a lot of those efforts into the ARCA Menard Series in recent years, and now they are making that big next step into the national spotlight, into the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So it'll be interesting to talk with Andy here in a little bit and talk to him about how that transition is going. It was just announced, and why now for this transition with everything that's going on at the ARCA level of the sport.
And we'll get all those details from Andy about his running in the Xfinity Series and everything that he's put into it when we return here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
O'Reilly. This is Sarah's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
Driving cross country with 2 young children is ambitious, to say the least. Then our check engine light came on. We pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts and they tested it. Turned out it was a faulty sensor. They referred us to a great mechanic just down the street and we were back on the road in no time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It wasn't just built to be a museum. It was built to be a shrine to the history, heritage, and future of the sport we love. This is our house, the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and it's packed full of classic and present-day cars, including Petty's, Earnhardt's, and Waltrip's, as well as interactive experiences, realistic racing simulators, and much more. Plan a trip to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Tickets at NASCARHall.com. NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is our sport. This is our house.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away 1 set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
It's always a boost of encouragement when you see a name that you have watched throughout the short track ranks make that announcement that they are going racing at NASCAR's top levels. And recently, over the past weekend, one of those names, Andy Seuss, announced he is going ready for a 2020 NASCAR Xfinity Series campaign. And Andy joins us now on the guest line to talk about that. First off, Andy, thanks so much for coming on NASCAR Coast to Coast as a guest this time, though, and not a good old Kyle Rickey fill-in.
Yeah, you know, it's a shame I only get to speak a little bit of the time, not the full hour, but I'm sure I can make it work, and always look forward to coming on and talking to you guys, so thanks for having me.
Now, we talked a little bit in the pre-show about your recent announcement. Our Motorsports is going Xfinity racing in 2020. This is a team that you've worked with over the last couple of years in the ARCA series. How long has this been in the works, and what was the emotion and excitement to get to finally announce, all of this work that you guys have put in?
Well, we did stumble across a car over the spring, and, when we were fully immersed in our ARCA schedule, and toyed with the idea, but I guess the stars didn't align to make a start this year. And then the opportunity came along really to get some great equipment. So that kind of just the stars did align. We're going to end up with GMS cars with Hendrick chassis. Jeff Collins will build the motors, which is all former Hendrick motors. So kind of just the opportunity to do it right, or as, competitive and as right as we think a small grassroots team can do. So just everything worked out, and I got to thank Chris Auer for, making the big investment in the team and believing in what we're doing, and looking forward to just a new set of challenges for next year.
Chris Auer and Auer Motorsports, obviously not new to the NASCAR game, especially successful in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour a number of years ago. Obviously running in the ARCA Menard Series the last few years with yourself as the driver. Give us a brief history beyond that of this race team and how you ultimately got paired with Chris Auer and Auer Motorsports.
Well, it's a little bit of a long story, but Chris was getting out of racing. He was selling his modifieds, and he had a ARCA car that Tommy Barrett attempted Daytona with. And that was in 2014, I believe. And we both didn't get into the show. No, it would have been 2015, sorry. Both didn't get into the show. And then come the following speed weeks, I had a really nice lineup going. I was supposed to run at New Smyrna full-time, an ARCA car, and a truck. And one by one, they all went away. So I decided I was going to be my own boss, my own owner, and, figure out how to do it. So I called Chris to buy the car because even though it didn't make the show and we were following it, I thought I had my car going really good through the turn. This car was a little bit better. So I called him to buy it. And, of course, having no money to my name, I had this pitch that I was going to leave his name on the car and he was going to give me the car, and advertising and sponsorship and all that. And the more I talked to him, the more, he kind of realized he wasn't ready to get out of racing. He's just as passionate as I am. And, by the end of the conversation, we were looking for the Ilmore Spec motor to go to Talladega. And we got it, and the car ran well and ran in the top three a lot of the race until having a brake rotor failure coming to pit road. And but it was enough of a shot in the arm that we were excited to just keep growing. So over the last few years, we've added cars, we've added motors, we've added equipment that's just allowed us to, compete at top level. We haven't won an ARCA race, but we finished runner-up and had some shot at winning races, a few top fives. So just really exciting stuff. And, just a mutual respect of one another. We get along great. He gives us everything we need. And, I can't thank him enough for really just trusting in me. We started the team in my backyard, in my little shop at the house, and he's invested in a shop that we're cleaning up currently and hoping to get some pictures of that out for people to, also share our excitement of what's going on. I mean, big things are happening. We're hiring people. We're adding equipment. It's getting big time. So it's pretty neat that it all started in my backyard at the house where I work on boats. And, next thing you know, we're going full-time Xfinity racing.
And you'd mentioned there the aspect of sharing the excitement. I think the last time we actually talked to you was you were getting ready to make your Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series debut at New Hampshire. The Modified race was there, and the overwhelming excitement that came from not only the Modified community, but just the Northeast and the support that came with that was so exciting to see that the aspect of the short track racing, making it at the top ranks of NASCAR, is still there with excitement. What's the support been like from the short track community with this announcement, since this really is a short track rooted team, driver, everything about this team?
It's been just as amazing. Making the Cup start was truly a dream come true. And I said it at the announcement the other day. I can't believe how many times in my career I've been able to say this is a dream come true. I mean, I've been very fortunate with some great opportunities, and people have been awesome. And I think one of the other things that, is kind of humbling and just really gets us exciting and helps us and supports us is the people that aren't shocked about it. And they just say, yeah, you could do that. And that's pretty crazy in itself because, some days I feel like Ricky Bobby and I don't know what to do with my hands. But to have other people, that have watched and say, no, you can do that, no sweat. That's pretty neat too. So it's all been really excitement. You kind of hit on it about a grassroots team. I mean, this is going back to we're doing it because we love it. We know we're not going to have the most crew people or, even enough in some people's minds. And as we've gone through the process of kind of a little bit of hiring and deciding who we're going to have on the team, it's got to be people we like, people that are going to have the same work ethic, because it's going to be a throwback to old. There's not going to be any punching out at 5 o'clock, after an 8-10 hour day. It's going to be all day. We're going to be living with each other. We're going to be digging in the trenches. So It's just really exciting. And like I said, the challenge is probably the most exciting thing. It's just different. People ask, how come we didn't do more short track racing in ARCA? And I'm not saying I don't have anything left to prove in short track racing, but when the opportunity for a different challenge presented itself, I was excited. And now to be doing a full schedule at this level, I'm just really looking forward to the challenge.
You've mentioned you're kind of living out your dream here, and you're a two-time modified champion. So yeah, there's a lot of us out there that know that you can do this. And there's a lot of modified drivers out there that we believe can do this. And Hannah and I talked about it a little bit at the top of the show, that while we see a lot of the K&N drivers advance through the K&N series into trucks, Xfinity, and ultimately Cup, we haven't seen that NASCAR modified presence in a while, with the exception recently of Ryan Preece. And now you're coming from the modified world, and we know there are a lot of other drivers out there like a Doug Coby and a Justin Bonsignor, the late Mike Stefanik that never really got a shot, the late Ted Christopher that can do it. Why do you believe that is? Is it the region of the country that the modifieds are in? Is it economics? Why don't we see more open wheel modified champions get a shot?
I think it's all what you put your mind to, and what you have to focus on. I'm not a driver. Sure, there's some drivers, A&N drivers, that come out of super late model and they've got the backing that they can do it all and they can pick and choose and they can have a blast. But when it came to my career, I had to focus on what I was going to do. And I had to kind of go where the best opportunities were. People ask, how did a New Hampshire native end up on the Southern modified deal? Well, I never got a top ride, but when people like David Riggs and Eddie Harvey call you, you jump at that. Ryan Preece made a decision to chase the dream a little bit further. He sacrificed probably more modified championships and wins to go after that. And not saying it's better or worse or whatever, but some people haven't done that. And, I've talked to a lot of younger drivers coming up and, I want to drive an ARCA car. Well, then you can't do it sitting in your living room in New Hampshire. And that's what it came down to with me. I had lots of opportunities, and people would call me, and it would be a Tuesday night and said, hey, you want to run, a car this weekend? Yeah, okay, come by and get fitted. Okay, I'll be there in the morning. I will drive straight through the night, or I'll get a plane. Oh, never mind. No, we got to be done tonight. So you have to be down here is a big part of it. And the next thing is winning races and championships on the Whelen Modified Tour is a hell of a goal. And, for the people that focus on that, that's an uphill battle. And I believe it's the Cup Series of the Northeast. Now that I've met and kind of the people down here and learned about the Southeast, Cup is the highest form of racing. Well, I dare say that the highest form of asphalt racing in the Northeast is the Whelen Modified Tour. And it's no joke. I mean, it takes a lot of resources, a lot of effort, great team effort, pit stops, testing. It takes a lot of effort. So it's hard, I'd say, for somebody like Doug Coby or Justin Bonsignor that want to win those races and championships to really get anywhere else, because they're working as hard as they can at that goal. So it really just depends on what you focus at. My job, or my focus, is to not get a real job and put off growing up as long as I can. So I moved down here and work on race cars as hard as I can in fear of working, on a real job someday. And Ryan Preece might have had similar things, and luckily it's paying off for him. It's been awesome to watch him climb the ranks.
That's what we're all doing here. We're all trying to not grow up, and in Kyle and I's case, we're trying to talk about race cars as long as we possibly can for that career. And so the day that ends will be a sad day for both Kyle and I. But you'd mentioned it there with that gap between the Whelen Modified Tour and the upper ranks of NASCAR, and how it's so secluded to the Northeast. But we saw this year the announcement of the 2020 schedule for the Modified Tour includes South Boston, Jennerstown is returning, as well as the expansion of Iowa on the same weekend that NASCAR's touring divisions will be there. Do you think that maybe that is an effort to highlight the tour drivers and create and, minimize that gap to highlight those drivers as well?
Absolutely. And one thing I think that the Whelen Modified Tour offers that some of the other series don't is just heroes. People that are there year after year. We've mentioned the Doug Cobys and Justin Bonsignor, but the resurgence of Ron Silk, Timmy Solomito. So they bring fans because, if you go to a Whelen Modified Tour show and you pick a favorite car and say you buy their T-shirt there's a good chance they're coming back. Where you don't have that in other series because the focus is on climbing the ladder. It's getting to the next level. So I think, it's a very smart move on places like Iowa. First of all, I applaud them for stepping up. I know it's a big investment to have the series there. But then, of course, I think it's going to work out for them. I think you're going to have fans that travel to Iowa, even though people at first were going, oh, my gosh, it's so far away. No, that's something people aren't going to want to miss. I think they should drive out there, and I hope all the Northeast Modified fans show Iowa Speedway how passionate it is, and in return, I hope it gets bigger and better between that, Martinsville, Jennerstown. I mean, the schedule is shaping up to be one of the best in years.
Cannot wait for 2020 to get here, but let's button up 2019, a big year for you, not just last week's announcement, but last time I saw you was in July at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, making your Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series debut. Talk about how big that weekend was for you and your family, everybody down there on pit road during pre-race, and how special it was for you to drive for Rick Ware Racing at your, your home racetrack up at the Magic Mile.
I've had 4 months to think about it, and I really still can't even come up with the words, which I'm usually not very short on words. But it was, I've said it was a dream come true. I felt like Charlie at the end of the Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie when he says, what happens to the boy that got everything he ever wanted? He lived happily ever after. I was good. That was incredible. When Rick called me with this idea to go to the race, I got to say, I gave up on a dream. And I guess I didn't realize how big of a dream it was, how important it was for me. Kind of got a little bit of the boo-hoos, it'll never happen to me. So I just stopped thinking about it. And when he offered it, I shrugged it off at first because every time I got an offer like that, it came with a price tag that I just couldn't grasp. And I got to give him credit. He's doing it a lot for short trackers and drivers that otherwise wouldn't get a shot. And when he told me it, I kind of just pictured, okay, where are we going to go? We're going to go to Chicago or, I don't know why. I had in my head that we're going to go in the middle of nowhere. And, I knew I'd have the support of my family. I knew I'd have, support on social media and text. But when he said we're going to do it at Loudon, I don't think I realized how special it was going to be for me. Every step of the weekend was just amazing, and people's support was awesome. And, it was a very hot weekend up there between, you had the modified race and the Cup race, so double duty, triple duty with the All-Star race on Friday. So I really just didn't want to let the team down. I was very worried about falling out of the seat. And it was really neat. With about 50 to go, we had our last pit stop, and it just hit me like, I can do this. This is not out of the question. And it was kind of neat because I got to stand up in the seat, got my fastest lap times of the day in the last section. So it wasn't that I was falling out of the seat, and got out of the car, and some people were in bad shape. It was so hot. There was people laying on the ground, and it probably was 90% adrenaline, but I was ready to go. It was just amazing. I was telling everybody, you weren't going to find somebody luckier than me that day. It didn't matter. The car didn't finish or whatever. I got to live out my dream. I had my friends and family there. It was incredible. We got to celebrate with Bentley Warren after at the campers. So that was just that was the cherry on top. I'm hanging out with Bentley Warren. This was cool. So it was awesome. I just can't say enough about it. Everybody that jumped on board and bought tires for the car, and it was a little team, so every little bit helped. It was pretty incredible. I had Chris Auer helped me out there. My family's Rockingham boat. We had competitors, former competitors, Wayne Darling and his Econ Grand Prix get on board. The Bates family that owned Weaver Brother Construction. I used to race go-karts on them. They jumped on board to buy a set of tires to make it all happen. So it was absolutely incredible. As a kid, you dream of the announcement of, I guess, signing with Hendrick or Gibbs or Roush or something like that. So it didn't play out how I had imagined in my dreams, but it was still just absolutely incredible. I think the clawing that I had to do at the top just made it that much more rewarding. Had I, it would have been amazing to sign a multi-year deal in my 20s, but to kind of have the dream revived when I thought I was too old, I was too this, I was too that, was I can't say enough about it. I mean, it was just an incredible feeling. I don't know if it'll happen again. One and done's pretty good. I was happy with my finish. I was paying attention to the average finish for the team. We were able to best that, we've got, in my one start, I've got the third best finish for the team this year. So, everything's good. And then, like I said, then building this Xfinity program is just another side of it, another challenge. It'll be exciting. I don't know that I'll be in the car every race. I'm going to do what's best for the team. If there's a veteran that comes along and, can help us with our learning curve, then, me and Chris have talked about that, and that's what we're going to do. We want this to succeed. I'm not going to let, just my, selfishness of wanting to drive every lap get in the way of it. So hopefully it can be around for years to come. And you never know. I guess the sky's the limit with our motorsports. Started as a modified team, went ARCA racing, and now going Xfinity racing.
And 2020 has been a season, or 2019 has been a season that we've thoroughly enjoyed following of yours. I mean, Kyle and I were in attendance at New Hampshire, and while it was a hot weekend, it was so cool to see, honestly, the modified T-shirts as well as Andy Seuss T-shirts in general just outnumber any other shirts that were there. And so it was a really cool experience to be there, and we look forward to watching you guys in 2020 and the expansion and the growth of our motorsports, not only in the Xfinity Series, but throughout the ranks. So, Andy, thank you so much again for coming on NASCAR Coast to Coast, and we wish you the best of luck in 2020.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
That was Andy Seuss on the guest line, Xfinity driver next season for our motorsports and past NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour champion. But when we return here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, we will tell you what to look forward to this up-and-coming weekend.
O'Reilly.
Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts for our See Better, Drive Safer sale going on right now. Get great deals on everything from wiper blades to headlight bulbs. Plus, save on your next oil change with 5 quarts of O'Reilly Full Synthetic Motor Oil and MicroGuard Filter, just $25.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Whelen designs and manufactures reliable and powerful warning lights, white illumination lighting, sirens, controllers, and high-powered warning systems for automotive, aviation, and mass notification industries worldwide. Every part of every Whelen product is proudly designed and manufactured in America and is tested on site to meet the toughest industry certifications. On the road, in the air, and around the world, Whelen is trusted to be seen, trusted to be heard, trusted to perform.
O'Reilly.
This is Jesse's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
As a nurse, not making it to work was not an option. But driving through the snow with my wiper blades struggling, I just didn't feel safe. So I pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts, and before I knew it, an employee was offering to install the wiper blades on my car. I got to stay out of the snow for a moment, and I still made it to work on time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
It wasn't just built to be a museum. It was built to be a shrine to the history, heritage, and future of the sport we love. Visit the NASCAR Hall of Fame and see how Petty, Earnhardt, and hundreds of other NASCAR legends became heroes. Watch their most electrifying moments, experience realistic racing simulators, and much more. Plan a trip to the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. Tickets at NASCARHall.com. NASCAR Hall of Fame. This is our sport. This is our house.
Back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. Here are Hannah Newhouse and Kyle Rickey.
We had Andy Seuss on the guest line previously talking about the expansion in the NASCAR Xfinity Series with our motorsports, but also another team getting ready to expand their NASCAR regional efforts into the NASCAR National is Sam Hunt with NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. They announced they will be Xfinity Racing in 2020 with Colin Garrett as a part-time driver. Looks like they've got themselves some sort of a Toyota alliance, and they've even maybe hinted that we could see them at Homestead. So it's pretty cool to see another team expand into NASCAR's national level, Kyle.
Yeah, Sam Hunt, a good young driver. We haven't seen him as much in the last year or two in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series. I assume because, like Andy mentioned a little bit ago, his eye is on a bigger prize, and that is in the National Series of NASCAR. And it'll be interesting to see if he and Colin are at the Homestead Miami Speedway in just over a week's time for the Ford EcoBoost 300 in that final Xfinity Series race of the season. I have a feeling we're going to see a few new faces sprinkled out the entire weekend, not just in the Xfinity Series, but in the other divisions as well.
And speaking of that, the NASCAR K&N West, one of the last of the regional touring series we've been covering this season, crowns their 2019 champion this up-and-coming weekend at ISM Raceway. And really, the later half of the season has been the season of Derek Kraus, who has got himself a pretty good points lead into the weekend. He pretty much just has to have a decent finish. There's a good car count expected as well. And if he collects this, it'll be the 9th K&N West championship for Bill McAnally Racing. And while the entry list is pretty stout, I feel like Derek Kraus is setting a pretty good precedent coming off of a Kern County Raceway Park win.
I believe I saw 25 cars on the entry list for this weekend. 47 points, the gap between Derek Kraus and Jagger Jones in the second spot. A good race from second on back between Jagger, Haley Deegan is in there, Trevor Huddleston, all within a couple of points of each other, racing for second, third, and fourth in the championship standings. But you're right, Derek, pretty much all he has to do is start the race, and he will be the 2019 NASCAR K&N Pro Series West champion. Sam Mayer's expected in the field. The K&N East champion will drive for GMS Motorsports. Evergreen Speedway veteran Trenton Moriarty is on the entry list. Alaska Raceway Park regular Keith McGee, former Navy SEAL in Taylor Canfield. So a lot of great stories in the race here this weekend. And we can't wait to bring it to you on the Motor Racing Network, part of the fanschoice.tv broadcast at about 6 o'clock Eastern Time on Saturday night.
Yeah, looking forward to it. That will go green at 4:15 Mountain Standard Time if you are a local of that area. But lots of big names. DGR Crosley bringing out a car as well with Drew Dollar, Ty Gibbs, and Riley Herbst also under the Levine Racing team there. So it'll be an exciting weekend. I'm so excited to see the K&N Series crown a champion at ISM Raceway. It was part of their protocol and part of their championships for the last couple years. Then it was off the schedule, and now we are back. So it'll be an exciting weekend. And Kyle, you'll be up in the booth for that, so you'll have a fun race to call as well.
I can't wait. And, of course, we have Kevin Harvick to thank after making it known a couple of years, or I guess a year and a half or so ago, after winning at ISM Raceway, that the need was there for NASCAR's touring division, in this case, the K&N Pro Series West, to return to the ISM Raceway, as it had been a staple on the schedule for so many years, even back when it was known as the Winston West Series. They used to open their season there in January and close their season there in November, and it's nice to see the return of the series here in 2019.
I actually got to race that final race in the K&N Series West before they brought it back on the schedule, so it has a place in my heart, and it always produces some great racing, and it'll be the first time on the new configuration as well there. So looking forward to that. Kyle and I will both be in attendance this weekend at ISM Raceway for the K&N Championship. Again, you can watch it all on fanschoice.tv at roughly 4:15 p.m. Mountain Time. So looking forward to an exciting weekend. We'll have all of the coverage for you again next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast on the Motor Racing Network. For producers Daryl Smith, I'm Hannah Newhouse, he's Kyle Rickey, and we will see you next week here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
NASCAR Coast to Coast has been brought to you by Whelen and by Hercules Tires. NASCAR Coast to Coast can be found on MRN.com, Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast provider. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.